I make a suggestion, I guess? I mean, from my perspective, if there are things which I've actually brought up some things as well, to me, we turn in the budget to the county. The county then determines what the mill is going to be. Us sitting here and going through numbers isn't going to, I mean, we can predict, but really, we turn in a budget, they determine the mill. So.
They don't determine the city's mill.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
They get the
It's
final
based on
say.
what they-
We're making the
Our
prediction.
budget is turned in, and then the county says, this is what this equates to in mills.
In the end, they get the
I mean,
final say.
That's the way the budget
That's,
works.
yeah. So my
Of course.
point is, if there's things in here, so let's use fund balance as a perfect example. If we want fund balance, we've kind of agreed to this 25%, right? So the budget's built on making sure it remains at 25%. If we don't agree with that, if we think it should be 20% or we think it should be 17%, then that's, to me, the direction we give. And then based on that, we turn in a budget that shows in the next 5 years, we want to hover around 17%, and the county will say, okay, based on that, and assuming we're not going to increase expenditures based on what we've already outlaid, then they will come back and say, okay, here's your mill.
Okay.
Or you cut out, there's different things that we've said we wanted to fund, funding them with really no mill increase projected. Then if there's things that you don't want to fund, then we say, okay, we're going to remove those from the budget. Then you turn the budget into the county, and the county will establish what the mill is.
Let me mention that whole thing about the fund balances and our targeted fund balances. Last year, we made a determination as a body, not for 25%, but for 20%. Our goal was 20% on fund balances, not 25.
No.
Now it's 25, and I can tell you.
Actually, I mean, if you could find meeting minutes for that, but I don't ever recall it being
Our
below 20%.
targeted projections for fund balances in the 2013 budget were 20, 22, 21, and 22 on the out years. I see it right here. They were below 25.
Okay, well, do we have a multi-year, do you remember what page the multi-year budget is?
For this year or for last year?
In this year's budget?
This year's multi-year for?
This year's, we're hugging
It's
25.
adjusted because we have different fund balances to start with.
Right.
Well, I just want to make sure, I'm trying to understand everything that Steve's thrown at us here and trying to soak all this in. And then also matching that up with what you provide to us as feedback from the initial meeting. And Steve, what was it, 1.2 million you say, that's the difference you can't account for?
That would be the
When I
gap.
look at that though, so if you take off the 2 mills, that's $272,000 this year. Next year, that's an additional $290,000. The year after that's an additional, just based off property tax increases, that's an additional $300,000. And the year after that, that's when it equals that 315. That equals 1.177 million that's not going to be part of that fund any longer.
But that assumes that there's no corresponding increase in revenues.
That's
That-
right.
On
That's
the back
exactly
side.
right.
So
There-
you can't take one and not the other.
One of the,
No, that's not true, because we've
Yeah.
always said she was going to be conservative on the revenue side.
We've always
I mean,
asked her to do that.
So we may not agree with that. I mean, you may not agree with that prediction, and you may agree that should change, but that's always been up front, is that we were going to be conservative
Nothing
on the
significant.
revenue side.
Right, there's
Always.
nothing significant. It was assuming
Yeah, it
the
was
same
gonna-
building
yeah.
activity that we have now,
I will-
nothing
So
significant.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, we're debating things, but it's like if there's significant things that we want to change to lower it, then let's do that.
I
But
don't
sitting
think-
here and arguing this
I'm in
stuff
favor.
okay.
isn't,
I'm in favor.
Here's the other thing. In 2012, for the 2013 budget, I asked Mike Press, the interim city administrator at the time, and Laura to look at the revenue numbers, which similarly, I thought maybe hadn't been quite aggressive enough. Now, based on their conversations with people at the county, they ended up raising some of those projections. It was a tidy little sum, and probably still on the conservative side, where the county was looking at 6%. I think we raised 4, maybe it was 4 and 8. But we made adjustments, and it made a big difference in out years.
Sure.
But that was a discussion that we had in May.
Yep.
And not a discussion that we had and that changed the complexion of that budget. I think the people that were on the council at that point could attest to that.
Oh, I agree.
And the old way of doing the budget was to take all of these line items on page 37 and 38, general fund revenues, and inflate them. And let me assure you that under your current city administrator, that practice is no longer okay, which is why even though you have very graciously given extra staff to the accounting department, let me assure you, it takes longer than ever to grind every one of these numbers, because the lady in the chair over there, you're gonna be proving everything to her, and we've already done all that. It has been through review of
Okay.
the managers and the supervisors and the directors and then my team and me and Cheryl more than once, every one of these numbers in this entire budget book has been screened and re-screened and aligned and realigned and re-tinkered.
All right.
Ad nauseum. And will I say that they may come in more? Absolutely, and we hope they do. But all I said in the analysis was, not yet. I am absolutely aware, and as your city administrator, that you'd like to do something different, but you also asked us to do all these projects. And so I'm not sure, if revenues come in better and the evaluations continue to grow and we collect all those delinquencies, amen.
Well,
Yeah.
That would be fantastic, but I can't budget that, in the out years especially. You've got to have, I'm telling you, bond and interest fund, if we don't get those delinquencies collected, that is not gonna be a good day.
Well,
can I ask a question about that, since,
Mhm.
Sure.
before we go away from this topic? You said that, 2 mills is attributable to the Russell.
Approximately,
So
sure.
that's $270,000.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
using round numbers. Russell's owe us on average, because it goes,
And
it's
you're-
scheduled on the amortization schedule, but they owe us roughly $260,000 a
Okay,
year.
so, and you're saying that if we, for whatever reason, don't get that money, and we go with what Steve's talking about, then we're gonna be in the.
Well, they're not the only ones. There's another, basically, it's
But
almost.
you're using the 2 mil, you know.
I'm using
for-
the 2 mil just
yeah,
as a
because that's what he
comparison.
brought
It's an
up.
easy comparison. The
Okay,
Russells
but-
themselves are worth 2 mils.
But then you made the point that takes 5 years, really.
Before
3
it
years.
even, before they even
Right.
continue.
3 years just to get to the.
3 years statutory before they
level.
can start.
Okay, so 5 years from now, and then, but you made some statement that I was a little perplexed by, if we get paid at all, or if we get paid the full sum. And I guess my question is, I mean, from a priority, lien holder status, aren't we one of the first in line?
Absolutely.
So-
It is a tax lien, even though it's a special assessment, it's considered a tax
Right,
lien.
right, so-
But let's say that the person who purchased it is looking for a deal,
Well, I mean.
and they
but-
pay half.
Yeah, but $270,000 for how many acres of property?
Well, I mean, I can't
Well, I know,
control
I'm
the
just trying to-
auction.
If that's, I'm just trying to make the case that if that's not really a probability, then, so that's what I'm trying to figure out, is how many acres are we talking about?
Okay, well, I'm not.
And where would we be in the priority
It's
status?
not only about the Russells.
No, I know, I understand, but,
Well, can you talk a little bit more about the other people that, I
Sure.
mean, maybe the scope of the other
Okay.
assessments that
So,
we're
for
worried
example, we have about $800,000 in delinquency for 2 parcels owned by the same person
which are where?
and have a New Century Benefit District. It has never been paid since 2008. In 2011, I sent a letter to the county saying, hey, what's up? And they said, they're there, you just don't understand, it takes 5 years before the statutory process rolls through. So 5 years, I contacted them and said, hey, where's my money? And they said, oh gosh, we're behind. I contacted them again this year, almost exactly the same day, oh gosh, we're behind. My point is, every year that passes, that the county does not timely collect, that delinquency grows and grows and grows and grows. So the Russells are $260,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you get 5 years,
Which we're already into this, how many years?
well, you're only in 2 right now. And they partially pay, but that doesn't matter, because you have to pay the full. So,
But then we've already raised the taxes to a level to support their delinquency anyway,
no,
that was the whole point.
no, they weren't included in that, because we had a settlement agreement that said they would pay. And you know what? They didn't.
Okay,
And they, how many, did they sue us just once, or it was
No, they
twice
sued us
directly?
several times.
Okay.
But now you're talking about a whole different person with the $800,000, and you're talking
I'm talking about a whole different
you're talking
person,
about the Coleman.
$800,000, they've just sliding through the process.
The property next to the Coleman facility?
Oh,
or-
no,
You
no,
said
no, New
just
Century, it's some parcel that's on one of those roads that's completely empty.
Like
I don't even
University